Hello, everybody. I am here with my dear friend who happens to also be a certified YNAB coach and a bookkeeper, Ori. Say hi. Um, so when you create your account in YNAB, YNAB will walk you through a bunch of setup steps. It's an automated journey. And when you have completed those steps, you're going to have something like what we have on the screen here. And what Ori and I intend to do in this video is to show you how to modify and customize what YNAB directs you to set up, and then additionally to how to interact with it, how to use it on a daily basis.
Okay. So what's going to happen after you've done all the steps that YNAB walks you through is actually designed to sort of help get you a basic layout set up for you. This is what we've created. And what we're going to do is we're going to show you how to create different categories and how to change and move things around to begin with. So this is called the plan because it's your spending plan, right? This is what you're going to be in hopefully every day to just kind of make a make this a sort of a habit in your life. So we're going to start to see all of these category groups, right? So we have monthly expenses. And in fact, let me make them smaller because it'll show you. These are called category groups, each of these things. And they're sort of just the header for the various different budget line items that you're going to have in there. This is what was created. You can change anything. And you can say, you know what? I don't like monthly expenses. I just want to call it bills. Your budget is your budget. And so it needs to be something that makes absolute sense for you and your brain. So I changed it to bills. Now, let's say you want a new category group. So you can just say category group. And let's say I actually changed my mind. I do want one that says new monthly or monthly expenses. So you type in there and you say, okay, and it creates it for you. Then, as you saw, each of these have a bunch of line items within them. So if you're like, okay, in monthly expenses, actually, I want to have a category for my mortgage. I don't want to have something called housing. I want to have mortgage because I have a mortgage that I have to pay every single month. You can just click on this little button. If you just hover over here, you click it and you can type in. So let's say I want to, my gas bill is a monthly expense that needs to happen every month, and my electric bill. So this is just an example. And what if you decide that, oh, geez, Louise, I didn't want to call it gas bills. I wanted to call it something else. You right mouse click. So I'm not 100% sure that this is how Macs work, but I believe you also have the right mouse click option. And you can right mouse click and then you can change it. You could delete it if you've made a mistake, or you could just highlight it and say, actually, this is just gas from Southwest Gas. That's the name of our gas company. And then you click save. The other thing that you can do is you can move stuff around. Like I like to have my mortgage at the very top. It's our very biggest expense. It happens on the first of the month. I need to be prepared so that I know that I'm ready to fund this by the end of the month so that on the first it's ready to go. I want it at the top. You can move these around. You can put them in whatever order you want. The other thing you can do is you can move the headings around. So you could grab monthly expenses and say, actually, I want that under credit card payments, but above bills. And the nice thing is if you kind of click on this little caret, it opens and shuts them. So you can really see every category group that you have. And then if you want to open them up one by one, you can, or you can open all of them up. So that's kind of just a real basic way to sort of navigate through this page. And this is where you're going to start to build your spending plan. This is where your budget is going to live. And you are going to start to you know, learn what you need as you start to gather data, right? Like as things get pulled in, transactions get pulled in from your credit card and your bank account, or just your bank account if that's all you use. you'll start to get a sense of like, oh gosh, I forgot to do, my cell phone bill, or oh, I forgot to, put in that streaming service. But that's sort of the basic gist of how to set this up. Danny, do you want to start? Should I start next with looking at sort of how to set up the different accounts, or are there more things that you think would be useful for people to see here?
Well, I'll just call out that I will have a suggested list of categories in the portal if you want to refer to those. But
Oh,
like Ori
awesome.
said, this is here to support you and to be unique to what you need. And a lot of our brains work differently. And you can trial and error your way through and figure it out as you go. And most importantly, don't forget to breathe and go slowly and notice if anything comes up for you around getting into this level of clarity or learning a new system can sometimes be really challenging for people. So I'm just going to invite everyone to take a deep breath. It's a component of learning that we often override. Carry on, Ori. Oh, what do we want to do next? Whatever you want, go for it.
All right. So what that I think is really neat about YNAB is you can set up as many categories or as few. This is a lot, right? What's happening in here? This is, as far as I'm concerned, this is too complicated of a spending plan. Um, I always tell people keep it as simple as you possibly can while still giving you the data that you want, right? Like for us, we have several, we don't go out a ton. We don't really go to the movies that often. We used to, and then we sort of stopped. And so but we have a number of streaming services that we pay for. I don't care to see which ones we've got. I just want to know how much are we spending on streaming. So I have a category for streaming. Some people may say, you know what, actually, I want to see which ones I've got, how much I'm spending on each one. So you can get as specific as you need to, but just remember that the more complicated your spending plan, your budget is, the more challenging it is to sort of upkeep it. So you want to keep it as simple as possible. For us, we just have medical. Some people like to have medical and then like medicine or prescriptions. So it's really up to you. One thing that I think is super cool is like for us, we actually, my best friend's daughter just got married, and I wanted to make sure that I had enough money for her wedding. So I created a category called wedding, and it was Heidi's wedding actually. And I put it to the bottom. It was probably, I actually probably put it under my savings future planning. That's what I call my category. And then I set a target, and we're not going to do that today. But what I did is I started thinking, what are the things that I need to start planning for? And so you can do that too. You can say, and if you can't fund it yet, part of this is about dreaming a little bit, right? So we know that we have our bills that have to happen every single month, but also there are goals that we want to set for ourselves. So if there's something you really, really want to do and start planning for, put it here. You could, they call it a wish farm actually in YNAB, which I think is really cute. But you could have something called goals or whatever, and you could say, you know what, I really want to go visit family at the holidays. So I'm going to put in a category for visit family, and I'm going to fund a little bit every single month, just so that if you can, to start planning for that, so that when that time comes, I'm ready to go. Okay, so that's general, like how to set this up, how to move things around. Just drag and pull them down. Right mouse click if you need to change something. Right mouse click if you want to change up here. You can have a new category group and add categories within the category groups. Okay. So the next piece of this puzzle is the accounts that we're going to have connected, right? So generally, you're likely to have a checking account. That's going to be almost everybody's going to have a checking account connected to YNAB. When you go through the setup process, it's going to ask you, one of the steps is going to be, let's connect an account, and it'll kind of walk you through that. But let me just show you how to do it if you've done one, but then you don't remember what to do. The easiest way to do it is to say add account, and it's going to take you through the steps of finding your bank. It's going to have you log in. We're not going to really do this, but I just want you to see what it looks like. And so it's going to say add account. It's going to send to, that's That's not the right number. That's hilarious. That's my sister's number who I've been helping with YNAB. So, anyways, it's going to send a code. It's going to get you to log into your bank account. But let's say for today we're not gonna add a connected account. So we're gonna just add an unconnected account. We're gonna add an unlinked account just so you can kind of see how it works. So we're gonna call this checking 123 just to have it be different from this checking. And let's say, okay, it's a checking account, but again, you can do, these things that you can add a mortgage, you could add loans, all that kind of stuff. We have our mortgage connected so I can really see how much time I have left, and it's a
Can
lot.
I pause you and ask a question, Ori?
Of
Can you
course.
explain why one would want to have an unlinked account versus a linked account, what purpose it serves?
Absolutely. So I'll give you a really good example. For us, we like to have a little bit of cash that, if um we'll call it household cash. We like to have a little cash, whereas if somebody comes to do some work for us and they really need to get paid in cash, we want to have a little money on hand just in case we need to. There's nothing to link it to because we just have some cash, right? So let's say we start our cash, we have $100 at home and we want to have a tracker for that. So then you would say next, and over here, you would see that there's an account for household cash. Cash is a really tough one because nothing gets pulled in for you. The nice thing about a checking or a savings or even a credit card is it pulls in all the data from the bank for you. Cash is a little bit more challenging. You have to really stay on top of it. But you also may decide, I want to have this one savings account that I don't really do anything in, but I want to just know that it's sort of part of my money life or whatever. So you could do an unlinked account for something like that. But generally, you're going to want to have your accounts linked because it's going to do a lot of the hard work for you. It's going to pull in everything that you need. So, you'll go through the process of connecting your bank, and then what will happen is you'll have a little check mark that shows up here on the right that shows you, yes, your bank is connected. And sometimes it'll get disconnected and you'll need to say, oops, I need to relink my account. But that's how you add accounts. You also can go in, like if you have things connected already, so you can see these are some of our accounts. It'll say, hey, because this is a demo budget within my main budget, like you can have more than one budget actually, which is really neat. So like I have one, my partner has one for his business, and I set up one for my kids who don't use it. So, but they will eventually once they move out, hopefully. So, sorry, I'm just spinning off into a little thought. Okay. So that's kind of how to get your accounts set up. There also are tracking accounts that you can do. So, like for us, we have a high yield savings account. That's not money we want to budget with, but I like to know how much is there because sometimes I'll use that money if we're doing a project in the house, or if we have a little extra, we'll send it over there. So, I have those as tracking accounts, which are down here. But I think let's not worry about that today. I just kind of want folks to know that there are a lot of things you can do with YNAB. But let me rein myself back into just the basics. So let's say you have your checking account connected. And so we don't have it connected here because this is just a demo account, but you'll have your little check mark and it'll start to bring data in. And what it's going to do is it's going to start to ask you questions. It's going to say, hey, we see these things came in from the bank. YNAB will start to guess for you. As you start to enter data, it'll say, oh, you know what? Beyond Bread, I think that must be eating out because that's what you've categorized it as before. But it never assumes that it knows. It's going to ask you to approve it. Sometimes you're going to get something and it's going to say, hey, we need a category, and you'll have to go in and add it. But so let me show you what it looks like to just add a transaction on your own, which sometimes you'll do if you're like, I really want to make sure that this is tracked, even though I know it's going to get pulled in from the bank. And what will happen is when it pulls in from the bank, it'll give you a little like infinity sign saying, hey, we think that what you entered is a match to what the bank entered. Can you let us, approve this or not, or say that's not correct? So let's say today we went to where did we go, Danny? We went to
Starbucks.
to Starbucks.
Sure, why not?
But I'm going to say a local shop. I'm going to say the local cafe. just because I'm kind of anti. All right,
I knew as soon
cafe.
as I said Starbucks, you would be anti. I'm kind of anti too, but
Sorry, I'm such a stickler, even when we're just pretending. It's a problem. Okay, so I went to a local cafe and I so for my partner and I, we actually each have a category for sort of our own fun money eating out. And then we have sort of our family eating out. But so let's say we don't care about that. We're just going to call it eating out. And so I'm going to type in eating out, which was one of the categories in my budget. And so it shows up there. If you want to just look and see, if you don't type anything, it'll show you every single category that you have in your budget. And you can choose, oh, there's eating out. You can choose it. Additionally, if you're like, you know what, none of these really fit, and I have this, this thing, I have a coffee habit, and so I want to just do out, coffee out. I want to create a category just for that because I want to track and see how much am I actually spending on drinking coffee out. And actually, I'm working with a young woman, a teacher, who's like, maybe I don't drink so much coffee out, and she started making her own coffee because once she got her data getting pulled in, she was like, oh gosh, that's really not how much I want to spend on coffee out. But let's say create coffee out category, and it's going to ask which category group do you want it in? And I'm going to say, you know what? That's actually fun money. That's my fun money. And you say save, and I can say coffee with Danny. And I spent, $12 because I also got a scone. I don't know. So different when your bank is connected because you're not only going to be having stuff come in, you're going to be reconciling, and that's going to be a whole different thing that we're going to do another time. But I just want you to know this is sort of just the very basics of getting started is just categorizing everything, right? Oh, so now I see Beyond Bread. Well, that was eating out because it's delicious. And I actually just went there the other day, local shop. And Albertsons, let's say I got some groceries. So you just double click. I type in GR because I'm lazy, and there's groceries, and I say save. And then we can see that this is what I started with, this amazing, wonderful starting balance, and these are the expenses. As things come in, they're actually going to show up as pending, or they'll show up as things that need to get entered. So maybe they're things that get pulled in from the bank, but they're not quite even like they just happened. And so it'll show up as like, do you want to enter this now? I enter everything as it comes in because I really want to know what I'm dealing with in my budget. Now let me show you. So, and then what will happen, right? So let's pretend like all of these are let's say these are cleared. These happened in January, right? So these are all cleared, but I still have this local cafe that just happened today. That's still pending. And sometimes what will happen also is it'll get pulled in as 12, but oh gosh, I actually added a tip for $2. So you do need to just be kind of mindful to pay attention that you don't get a duplicate. And so what sometimes you can do is say, you know what, I actually want to put in a little flag to remind me. And I'm going to say my blue flag, but I actually want to call it add tip. So you can rename it, add tip. And that's going to just remind me that we might not be done and we might get a duplicate. So it kind of just stands out to me as like, hey, just notice that this might still need a tip, right? So add tip is blue. And then you can clear it when it comes through and you know you're in good shape.
I'm going to add in here that I do it a little differently because I can only do the bare minimum on my own. And so I don't clear all of the transactions. I actually wait until they're
Hmm.
out of pending status so that I don't have to manipulate tips and things after the fact. That's what works
That's
for me.
really
And
smart.
yeah, so
Yeah.
you can do it either way. And maybe if you become really proficient and you start wanting to get into deeper levels of YNAB, you want to explore different things. But for me, and just to go over it since we're not seeing it so much here, when you come into this window after, let's say, 2 days of not categorizing transactions, whatever transactions have pulled in from the bank, there will be a bar across the top that says, five pending
Mhm.
transactions
Up
or
here.
whatever the wording is.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and then as Ori said, there will be a little infinity sign right here next to the date. And all you have to do is click that to approve the transaction. Because as you work with it, the longer you work with the software, the better it will get at categorizing for you. So you do always want to glance and make sure that it's accurate. Um, and then just click that infinity. And, as you get into using the software more, you'll probably have a ton of pre-categorized transactions and then only a few that you have to actually add a category to.
Yeah. And I actually think that that's a really, really good point, as I just wouldn't even approve it until you see it with the tip, because you will end up with some duplicates. Now, eventually we're going to, go over reconciliation, which is the way that you make sure you don't have those kind of mistakes, is basically what I don't know if people, for me, I used to have a checkbook, right? And every month the statement would come from the bank and you would have to compare your checkbook to the bank statement to make sure you didn't miss anything. So, and that's sort of what this is, right? Is we're comparing what we have in YNAB to what the bank says we have. And so that's a good way to catch mistakes. But I agree, in the beginning, just leave it. Let it sit there until until it pulls through and gets not out of pending status.
Yeah.
And but then what you can see up here is you're going to see some more data, right? So this is everything that's cleared, right? I had $25,000 that I started out with, and these expenses. That's everything that's cleared. And you can see it's cleared because there's the little green C here. We also have this pending local cafe expense. So that's uncleared. And so you can see here that's uncleared. And then what it shows you is your working balance, right? Because that 12 is going to come out. So it's really nice to know, like, how much money do I really have, even though this is cleared and this is not. So that's kind of just a
Yeah.
handy place to look.
And then, Ori, will you next explain why YNAB is so awesome with credit cards and how it sort of siphons the money off so that if you are using credit cards, you're paying them off in full each month, and you explain it. You know what I'm talking about.
I do, and it's amazing. And it's the thing that gets people the most confused. So I would also tell you guys, like, if this feels a little overwhelming in the beginning, you're not alone. But if I'm going to show that to you properly, let's go back to our plan first. And actually, I want to show you what happens after we categorize some things. We're going to get this thing up here. Red is always a good clue that we need to pay attention, but yellow is a good clue too. And we're probably not even going to get to any yellow today, but red is a really good, like, hey, stop, notice, right? Hey, I overspent in coffee out, not because I'm really overspending, but because I hadn't budgeted anything for coffee out. And so it's going to say, hey, you overspent because you didn't put anything in there to you didn't budget anything for coffee. So there's a few ways to handle this, and I'm going to show you, I think, probably the easiest, because we have money in ready to assign. And ready to assign is basically all of our money that we have in our checking, our savings, our household cash. All of that is going to equal what we have in ready to assign and anything that we have budgeted, which I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. But for right now, I'm going to say, oh gosh, I didn't plan for this. I forgot to budget. I'm going to scroll down here. You can either say underfunded, which works really well if you have money in ready to assign, or you can click on here and you can say, where do I want to cover that overspending from? Well, right now I have money in ready to assign, but eventually you may have nothing there because you've budgeted everything. And so you may say, gosh, you know what? I actually have a lot of money in groceries. I'm going to cover my overspending from there. But for right now, let's take it from ready to assign. And I know this is a lot of information and feels kind of overwhelming, but it's just one step at a time, right? Just one step at a time, and it'll start to really make sense as you use the system. So we're going to take that and we're going to say, oh, good, we're fully spent. We budgeted 12, we spent 12, we have no money left. But let's say, I actually want to make sure that I have another $20 for, and I want to assign $20 from here to coffee out, because I'm going out again with a couple of friends this week and I want to make sure I have enough money. So I'm going to budget another $20, and you can see now it's green. Now I'm going to show you what happens when you spend money on a credit card, right? So we have $20 that's budgeted for coffee out. Let's say I go and I have coffee and I buy coffee on my credit card. I use my credit card. So we're going to enter it because we don't have that capability to connect it for this thing. But we're going to say, I went out for the local cafe. I had coffee and I spent $5 just for the sake of this example. And I'm going to say save, right? So I took $5 out of my coffee budget, out of my cafe budget, and spent it. Now, let me show you what that, so then you can see here it says -5. That's how much you owe on your credit card, right? We're out $5 and we're going to go to our plan and I'm going to show you what that looks like. So we're going to go down to our coffee budget, our coffee out budget, right? And I had budgeted another 20, but I spent 5. So now I have 15 left of the 20 extra that I budgeted. Well, what happened to that $5 that I spent? So YNAB really, really wants to make sure that people are not getting into debt, right? Because then you have to pay interest and it's a huge bummer and that's your money that you should get to keep. So YNAB says, we're going to help you plan for that. You spent $5 on your credit card. You called it coffee out. That's what it was. It took $5 out of here and look what happened. It put it up to your credit card. It took that money automatically and put it into your credit card budget line. And I like to tell people you can kind of think of these as like buckets or envelopes, right? You had money in your coffee budget, but you're not done when you use your credit card. When you buy something on your credit card, yes, we spent $5 from our coffee budget, but we still have to pay the credit card. So YNAB takes that money and puts it up in your credit card so that then I have 5 of my dollars ready to go to pay my credit card when it's time to do that. And that will happen all the time. Anytime, let's assign $100 to groceries, for example. Okay, we're going to put $100 in groceries, takes $100 from here, puts it down in groceries, and let's do it again because I want you to really see what happens. So we went to Albertsons and I bought some groceries. And look, it's already guessing. It says, oh, we did this once before. And it shows you have $100 in your grocery line item. And I'm going to say, okay, I spent $15 for groceries. I'm going to save it. And then we go back to our plan and you'll see that $100 that I budgeted, 15 of those are now gone. I spent 15, took it out of my grocery budget, and it put it up into my credit card because YNAB, again, is trying to help you to plan for paying down your credit card down to zero because it doesn't want you to have hold any debt. Nobody wants that for you. Well, the credit card company does, but we don't like them. So, and what you can see is, look, you have enough money to pay off your current balance. You can make this payment at any time. That's green. Let's say, you didn't have, well, you know what? No, I'm not going to go there today because it's going to be too much information. Do you think that
Yeah,
was a
no,
good way
but
to?
what you might want to show them is can you create a transaction that is in a category that you have not assigned any money to? So we can see what that looks like
From the credit card or checking, or do you not care?
from the credit card.
Okay. Yeah. Let's say we went to I paid a contractor and he did some work on my house. I did some home maintenance and I paid him $200, let's say. Okay, we're gonna save it. Contractor, home maintenance, $200. And you can see my credit card bill is the number is going up, right? Like every time you add something, it shows you this is how much you owe. And again, this is where it's going to be cleared versus uncleared. See how as I clear it, it changes the numbers up here. Now we have 20 cleared, 200 uncleared, and then we're going to clear it and we have 220 total. So now we go back to our plan. And again, we're going to see our overspent. You can do this one of two ways and see how this became yellow, your credit card. Yellow is again telling you like, hey, you need to know. Green is like, you are good to go. Red is like, stop, you spent money that you don't have, that you didn't, you spent money that you didn't budget. And it's a problem. Or it's yellow, pay attention, right? Because now we know that for your credit card, we don't have enough money to pay it off because we owe 220. We only have $20 budgeted. So you can either click on one overspent and it'll just show you this, or you can just scroll down until you find your home maintenance category. Now here, it's going to show you, hey, you overspent by $200. You didn't budget anything for that, right? And so not only now are you yellow here and in negative, right? Negative matters because negative is, again, you spent money that you didn't budget, but it also is yellow here. But let's say, you know what? I just forgot to budget for it. We have the money to do that. I just forgot to budget for it. Again, you can either say underfunded and it'll fill it in for you, but your best, most simple bet is to always just click on the line and say, where do you want to cover that overspending from? I'm going to take it from ready to assign. But look, remember how we talked about before that if you have money other places, you can use that money and move it around, which is, again, how your budget is very much a living thing. And so we couldn't cover all of our overspending from groceries because we don't have $200 in groceries. And in fact, if we clicked this, it would put us in the negative for groceries. But we do have enough money under ready to assign. Now, see how there's a thing here for credit card? That's because we have $20 budgeted to pay the credit card company. You could use this money, but again, it means that you're then not prepared to pay your credit card bill. Okay, we have money and ready to assign. We're going to cover our overspending from there. We're going to click OK. It's going to take it. It says we budgeted 20. We spent 20. We budgeted 200. We spent 200. And then this goes down to 0. And you go up to there and look at that. Now we have 220 to pay our credit card down to 0. Does that answer kind of what you were asking me to do, Danny?
Yes, perfect.
Okay. Now, your goal is always going to be to get ready to assign down to 0 because basically what you're doing is you're giving your money different jobs to do, right? $220 has the job of paying the credit card down to 0. 85 of your dollars has the job of paying for groceries. Now, that doesn't mean it won't change. If you already bought groceries and you're like, oh, geez, Louise, I don't have enough. I've already got all my groceries, but I need $20 for gas. You can take $20 and move it to gas. And look what that looks like. Then you have 20 less there and you have 20 there. You can always move these around. That's the beautiful thing about this is that you're always going to make adjustments. You have to roll with the punches because things change and things come to surprise us. Let's say there was oh geez, you know what? I ran out of dog food. I'm going to spend $15 and just get a few cans of that. So we'll put it under pets. So you can really use this in a way that will be very beneficial for your particular situation. We're giving every dollar a job. We're going to want to give all of these dollars a job. Now, let's say you're in really good shape and you have a lot of money and you say, you know what, 4,000 of this I actually have in my savings account. Let's say we're going to move $4,000 from our checking to our savings account. Okay, we're just doing a transfer. We're not spending, so we don't need a category. And we're going to say for savings. Let's say we'll move $4,000 out of our checking to savings. And look what that looks like. When you transfer, and that's what it's going to look like when you pay a credit card too, right? Is you're taking money from your checking, either to your savings or from your checking to your credit card. It's always going to show these two little arrows. Now look what it looks like in your savings. Same thing. It created inflow of $4,000. Now let me explain to you why we're doing this. We want to take $4,000 and just put it to the side. I don't want to budget with that. That's my like emergency fund. So let's go down here. If you don't want to use any of this savings to budget with, you're going to either call it emergency fund or you're going to just say, this is my savings, don't touch, not to use to budget. You can call it whatever you want that will make sense. And so now we have a line item for savings, right? And we have $4,100 on our savings. And if we don't want to budget with that, we need to put it to the side because right now it's here. And if we budget it, it'll be gone. And so if we want to not use these $4,100, we're going to take from up here, we're going to take $4,100 and we're going to move that to our savings, not to use budget line item. And that just takes it out of your budget to some extent. I mean, it's still here, right? But we know, okay, this savings, we're not touching this. This is our emergency fund, our vacation, whatever it is. This $4,100, I don't want to budget with it. So we take it out of ready to assign and we give it the job of being your savings. Does that make sense, Danny, how I explain that?
Yes, completely.
Okay. And then what you'll do is you're going to give all of these dollars a job, right? So now let's start to think about what that's going to look like. Let's say you have a $2,000 mortgage. So we're going to assign $2,000 to the mortgage. Let's say you have a $50 a month gas bill. So we're going to put it to this gas, not gas fuel. And actually, that's a really good reminder. Like, oh, actually, we said gas here, but I want to call it gas fuel because that's gas fuel. Nope. There we go. This is for the car, right? We need it, and then we need gas for the house for for the hot water. Oh, we have oh gosh, we forgot to turn off our AC. I live in Arizona. We have a huge electric bill. That doesn't happen because we have solar, just so people aren't judging me too much.
By the way, $200 for air conditioning is, I live in Northern California. That's
Oh, yes. Yes, yes, yes. Well, in Arizona, we have so much sun, so we took advantage of that and got some solar panels. Um, and then you're going to start to budget this. You're going to budget this down to zero. Let's say, you know what, we're doing a big project on the house and we're going to have to pay the contractor $5,000 for, no, what did we call it? I think we called it, what did we call it? Home maintenance. But if you don't remember, you can just say, all right, I'm going to assign $5,000, and you can kind of just scroll down and say, what did I call that category? I can't remember. Home maintenance. And this is just for the sake of getting a bunch of money out of here so people can see what it looks like. And oh my gosh, I can't believe it. My car broke, but it's cheaper than buying a new car. So I'm going to fix my car. We're going to put this much money to auto maintenance. And, actually you need a lot more than $20 for gas right now. So I'm going to put 100 to gas. I just want to get this down to zero. Let's see. What's enough? You know what? I have 5 kids. I don't really have 5 kids, but I have 5 kids, and we are going to spend so much money on groceries, and it's almost the holidays. And so I need to put in a lot of money to groceries. What I'm going to tell you right now is I'm going to show you something, but I want you to not do this. You can actually type in this box, right? So you could say, you know what? I need $1,000 for housing for my mother. I'm going to need $200 for the internet. Here's the problem. If you do it this way, if there's a zero, totally fine. But if there's already money in there, right? So let's say there's 120 in here. If you just click on there and type, it's going to screw you up, and it's going to say, oh gosh, that's not what I meant to do. I mean, that's not actually a great example because we just did it, but it changes your balance. So what I'm going to encourage people to do, I'm trying to find a good example for this. Well, it doesn't matter. Maybe just trust the process, which is don't type in here unless it's zero. Generally, the best way to do it is to assign money from here. So let's take another $4,000 and we'll put it towards, let's say, this is ridiculous, but I'm realizing we gave ourselves too much money to deal with. We're gonna go on a vacation. So we're gonna take $4,000, and now you can see this is starting to go down. The thing that I ask my folks all the time that I work with is, what does your money need to do before more money comes, right? Like, oh gosh, I have 1,500 now that I've got to budget with. What does this money have to do before you get more money? So let's say we have to spend some money on utilities. We have to send, 300, these are bad examples, but on your cell phone. I actually have to pay tolls to get places. So I'm going to put, 200 for transportation. You understand the deal. See, right? You're just giving every dollar a job. We belong to a religious organization, or we do something spiritual. So we're going to put some money to spiritual. Personal is just, you know what? I like to go shopping and I have money, so I want to buy myself some clothes. I actually hate shopping, so it's not a good example for me, but for some
I
people it
love
will.
shopping. I'm
And
going to give an example, Ori. I'm going to jump
okay,
in here for a moment if that's okay.
please, please. Yeah, because I feel
So
like I'm
what
starting
I
to spin.
do, and again, I'm just, I am not a YNAB expert, but what I do, what works for me is that in whatever my top category group is, which mine is like monthly expenses or something, and I have all of my recurring predictable monthly expenses in there, and I actually have them organized by what's due the first 2 weeks and what's due the second 2 weeks of the month. And so I go and I fund them in that order. So each time I have money come into my account, I go through and I fund ahead of time what I'm going to need for, whatever period I choose to take care of at that moment. Does that make sense?
It's wonderful because it's what I do too. And the easiest way to see that is to start setting targets. And I don't think we're going to spend time on this today. Does that sound
No,
right,
we
Danny?
won't do that today. We'll do that another
But
time.
when we do that, then people will start to see a really easy way to do that. But you're exactly right. I do exactly the same thing, which is I actually have all my monthly bills all together. And I know what things come first and I budget those first. So what we can see actually is that we're in really good shape. We budgeted out all our monthly bills, right? And we know we have some housing expenses. Somebody in our family is going to go to the chiropractor to get a massage or whatever. We're going to put some to health. I just want to get this down to zero is my goal.
Put the
Oh,
rest in savings.
well, I'm going to put it to medical because it's always a big one in our family.
You really want to
Um,
spread around the imaginary budget. Okay.
oh yeah, yeah, I do. I know. I don't. Again, just me being a little OCD about how to do it. So you can see all of our money is assigned now, right? Every single dollar that we have has been given a job. 220 is to pay the credit card down. And every time we put something on the credit card, if we have money budgeted, it'll take it out of there and put it into credit card. But these are all the line items that we have budgeted. We don't have anything budgeted for books, music, movies, right? So if we discover, like, oh, actually, I did want to budget something, you can move money from one to the other. You can take it, you can move it however much you want to wherever you want. Again, it's going to be a living thing that happens. But the idea is to get this down to zero so that every single dollar has a job. And then what happens is you start to get into the habit of looking at your budget on a pretty regular basis. I actually have mine open as a tab on my computer every single day. I'm in there every day and I'm just taking a peek like what things have happened today. I categorize them. I make sure that I'm on top of things because I also want to know like, oh, if the family wants to go out to eat, if I have money budgeted for it, we're in good shape. If I don't, do I have money that I can take from a different line item? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe we don't go out to eat until somebody gets paid again. So you're
Yeah.
using this as a guide. This is your spending guide. And the nice thing about it is you get to decide what that looks like, right?
Yeah. And I'll just say that it's really important that you let the software be there to support you. The budget, but the whole idea of budgeting in this model is not to control you, it's just to offer you flexible clarity. So
Yeah.
I move money around all the time. And when I set a spending target, like let's say I give myself, $1,000 for groceries for the month or whatever it is. And I'm glancing at it every day or every couple of days, and I know roughly how much is in there. If I'm out at the grocery store and I want to spend an extra $500 and I know I have it somewhere else, I will go ahead and spend that because I know I can move money around in my budget. I'm not going to worry about it too much. There is no, the structure is meant to be flexible so that it really just supports you in having clarity and taking away some of the cognitive load of, where is the money and where is it going and what do I need it for, et cetera.
And something that you just said really struck me is the cognitive load, because what starts to happen is the more data gather, right? Every day you gather more data. So once you've been doing YNAB for a couple of months, you start to really get a sense of like, how much do things cost? And you get to be able to budget in a way that's much simpler because you're like, okay, generally, this is how much we spend on this. This is how much we spend on that. We know our mortgage is the same every month. And so you're actually setting yourself up for a lot less cognitive load.
Yeah.
Um, you're setting
Well,
yourself
and
up. Yeah, go ahead. I'm
I
sorry.
just want to share also from the perspective of someone who really struggles, one with clarity, two with numbers, and then in the beginning really also struggled with learning a new software. It was very much a trigger for me. It is not anymore. So that's the good news is that, if you go slow and you notice what's happening in your body as you learn this stuff, you're going to create more capacity. If you can be gentle with yourself, you're going to create more capacity for the things that generally trigger you. And so, like, for example, I now go in my YNAB. Well, I sometimes go in it daily, and that's really good. And then sometimes I don't, and I won't look at it for a week. And then when I go back into it, it's a little bit more overwhelming to categorize all the transactions because I've lost, presence with my numbers for a week. But it's also not the end of the world because YNAB is capturing everything and it's super easy to go through and deal with it. And the other thing I want to say, and we're not going to get into how this works, but as you grow your capacity to have clarity and to be in the reality of the money you have, the more empowered you are going to feel. Because when you go to make a $5,000 purchase, you will know exactly where the money is coming from, and you will have decided to make that purchase from a place of ease and confidence and not from like, an urgent desire to have something or a lot of anxiety about whether or not you should be allowed to have it or what have you. And then the last thing that I want to say is that I have used this software in times of great abundance and in times of, for lack of a better word, scarcity. So I've had a lot of money and I've not had a lot of money. And it's really served me in both because the more willingness you have around being clear, the more space there is for more money to come in and for more money. And when you have an infrastructure like this, a practical infrastructure for tracking, there's more room for money to land in your world because it has somewhere clear to go and you have a support system for making intentional choices with it.
Love that.
Do you want
I
to add
love that. And
anything?
it's interesting because I've actually worked with clients who have enormous wealth and have no idea where their money is going. So they wanted the clarity. And folks where it really was paycheck to paycheck. And we had to be very, very thoughtful about how we assigned those dollars jobs. And it helped both of them. Both ends of those spectrum uh, found YNAB to be incredibly useful.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, so is there anything else just in terms of like basic usage that we should go over in this session?
I don't think so. I think that's a really, really good basic start. There's so much that, and I get excited, so I want to teach everything all at once, but that wouldn't be useful. So I do think that targets will be a separate session. I think looking at the reports will be really useful,
Yeah.
um, and reconciling. So
Oh,
I
no.
think
Yeah.
there's
I
still
do also, sorry.
go ahead. No, 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 please.
We're both interrupters.
We get
So I
excited.
do I do want to say also just for reference, like and this is coming from me. I have a long history of a lot of financial mistakes, a lot of financial wreckage, a lot of shame, a lot of avoidance, all of those things. And I do want to say that I do my taxes so easily and so
Mhm.
quickly. And I did my taxes this year. My taxes were in and done really early and I didn't even realize it. And then I had friends like calling me saying like, "Oh, I'm really struggling. I have to file an extension, all this stuff." And I realized how in retrospect I went from being a total mess to being ahead of the game with complete ease. And it was such a moment to celebrate. So that's what these little actions will give you in the bigger picture.
I love that. And I love remembering that it was a process. I mean, this was a process for me too. I started YNAB because I got divorced and suddenly had some credit card debt, and it was upsetting. And so I had to figure this out on my own. And that's why I became a coach, actually, is because I do think that everybody really could use a spending plan, and it can be really scary. And so sometimes it's nice to have someone holding your hand, but there are also lots of resources to, to help us get where we want to go. And I
Yeah.
think just remembering that it's just one step at a time, and all of a sudden, you've gone really far.
Yeah. All right, cool. So we are going to say goodbye here, and then we will come back with another session to get into greater detail.
Sounds good.